choose to love where freedom flies from my heart, where the light keeps shining. And I choose to feel the whole world crying for the strength that we can rise above. I choose love.
Hello, everyone, again. Hi, Larry. How are you doing?
Hi, Andreas. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm excited about another conversation we're going to have today.
Yes.
And like we started
this is an important one, a big one.
It is. We started the process last week to look at the 10 great words. And, you know, I was just thinking about the whole issue in my own life, you know, being brought up in a church and being exposed to different truths. And it has been a very complicated process to know, what do I do? What do I read, etc. And, you know, I was just reading this morning in the book, The Covenant of in Love. In chapter 20, there's one sentence which says, in the chapter, the battle has been won. The battle we face upon this earth is the battle to surrender into divine love and not fear. And, you know, and I felt like many things that I have learned through church, etc., is fear-based, as if I have to earn my right to be in heaven or earn to be saved, etc. So this is a topic that I'm sure a lot of people are interested in, and it ties in with the topic of the 10 great words. So Larry, how, you know, we're talking about a battle, right, that we're going to win, but we're going to shift it to divine love, and
Yes.
we can do that with these 10 great words. So how are we going to do this?
Well, I think we need to kind of back up a little bit to define the simplicity, like you had picked up the book, The Covenant in Love. And many people don't understand the simplicity of what's really being extended within that message, the importance of divine love as opposed to human love, or the love that we've come to know by being raised by an alcoholic. Do we have to search for love that comes with an alcoholic attached to it, or love that we gained through the spirit of abuse, the abuses that we encountered in our youth? So we think, well, if I'm going to be loved, I have to go find another person to abuse me in the same way that I was when I was younger. So what we've done is we've turned capital L love, God love, into small l human love, and we separate ourselves from the truth and wisdom that resides within God's presence through our earthly experience. So I would say that many people really need to come to this awareness that they need to stop seeking self. They need to stop seeking life experience. And they need to return to the one most important instruction that God provided through YahShua, through many sages upon the earth, and that's to seek source, God presence within. And if people would draw to the Covenant in Love, which Andreas has done a phenomenal job digitizing it and making it available online for people for free. If they can gift, great. If they can't gift, read it anyway. It's your information. It's available for you. But to engage in that resource, but also understand that there's a certain order in the way that God brought that information forward. As I mentioned in our introduction call last week, I didn't write this book over a course of years. I received permission after doing an event in upstate New York, and it just came through me in this awareness that I was to begin. And I sat down at the typewriter and I began typing, computer, and I began typing into the computer, and I typed for 7 days. At the end of 7 days, it just ended. And then there was a course of following weeks that I took all kinds of journal entries and brought them into that beginning stage of the Covenant in Love. And in that experience, one of the things that came forth was a covenant in love, the 10 great words. And I left that hidden in my journal. I didn't even allow it into the book because I was thinking, you know, God wants me to touch this, you know, the 10 great words, because I knew them in opposition to the 10 commandments. They were like the original offering, not the way it's been changed and altered through years of human living and altering things. And I guess, as I said a moment ago, we have to come back to the basic simplicity. Is our God loving? And can we look at our God being loving with a capital L? Is our God a providing God? Is our God a benevolent God? And then, is our God a teaching God or a commanding God? You can't, it's like, it separates the nature of God's love when we start calling God a commander, a forthright and forceful commander, instead of a loving, benevolent teacher, moving us into greater understanding. And then I also had to reconcile the fact that this awareness that came to me about the 10 great words and the way that they were formatted, I had shared them with a number of people, and one of the biblical exegetes that works in that time came forward and asked me, well, where do you get this stuff from? And I said, what do you mean? Who taught you this? What theological seminary did you go to, and who taught you this? And I was like, well, I didn't. And the thing that shook him was he knew this stuff, but he had learned it through theological seminary. He had learned it through reviewing the original Hebraic scrolls back to the earliest forms of Hebrew, the earliest stages of written Hebrew, Hebraic. And he was a transliterator, and he was just confounded by the fact that some guy in the middle of nowhere happened to know that they were called the 10 great words. He says, because that's what they were originally called, was the 10 great words, not the 10 commandments. And he said, they were formed more as a way that when you find yourself following me, you will discover these things within you. And I said, oh my God, that's exactly the way it came through as I was typing and putting things into the journal for the Covenanted Love, was as you find yourself upon my path, you will discover these attributes within you. And so that made me start to look at this and go, wait a minute. Our God is not commanding and holding us under a thumb. God is desiring for us to be empowered and increase through understanding and move forward into greater wisdom. So that's kind of the beginning of it. But there's also an important aspect of why the book is structured the way it was. And I shared that with you earlier.
Right.
I thought for months on whether I was even going to incorporate the 10 great words into the book. And it like you described, it's awesome that you were led by God to take up that scripture, I mean, that point towards the end of the book where the battle, because there was a battle going on within me. And it was a battle wondering, am I really going to touch this? Am I going to bring this into the book? And I left it in the journal for the longest time. But then there was this process that I went through in the book where I would pray, sit, and rest over each chapter. And as I was praying and resting over each chapter, each segment of it, it wasn't actually called a chapter at that point, it was a segment of the book, just phases of the knowledge that was coming through. And I would just sit with it. And God would just guide me to a place on like page 14, and I would find like errors in the word structure or misspellings or whatever, and I would just go through that for each individual segment. But as I was doing that, this whole time, I kind of felt like there was something, I was missing something. There was something off. There was something out of place. And as I got to the last chapter, I was like, what is it? I just kept sitting there in a state of prayer, and I knew I was supposed to go to the journal and grab the 10 great words and bring them in. Well, I brought them in as chapter 21. I didn't bring them in. Like, okay, God, I'll let them, I'll bring them in there. And I brought them in a small measure. And as I prayed over the book once again, I was getting, that's wrong. So I like moved it up to like chapter 11. And then well, no, that doesn't really fit there. And I moved it to chapter 7. And it didn't really fit there, but chapter 7, that's kind of a number of completion. Maybe God can bless it there. Because I was still arguing that battleground within myself. And I sat with it, but then I had a wonderful editor that works with stream of consciousness people. And one of the first questions she's asked me was, why did you put the 10 great words at chapter 7? And as I sat there for a minute, I honestly had to answer, well, because I was fighting with God. And at that moment, I knew within me it was supposed to be chapter 1, which was to immediately follow the cosmos meditation. So as you look to the book, A Covenant in Love, and I know you're familiar with it, Andy, it begins with the language of the book to help people understand the language and the vibrational nature of what we've lost sight of, especially through our church instructions. We've been separated from the living words of God, and I don't believe that there's any mistake in Yeshua's arrival. Yeshua arrived upon this planet at a time where language was tied to breath, the Amun, the living breath of God within, and it was Aramaic. So we've lost the connection to a lot of that vibrational awareness. So it goes from the language of the book into a place that is called the Cosmos Meditation, which teaches the foundational message to all teaching. All instruction comes down to one simple teaching. And for you that are watching, Andreas did a phenomenal job connecting that link to the digital book. So you can click on the link of the Cosmos Meditation, and it's a meditation that I remembered, because I can't tell you honestly whether it was a vision that I was experiencing while I was sitting in my living room, just trembling for like however many minutes, just sitting there in tears pouring down my face, gently trembling on the couch, and I had this remembrance of this vision. And I also believe that most of our visions are like that. It was something we were given before we came here. But I remember this vision where I was drawn into the cosmos and shown by Yeshua all knowledge, all understanding, as he directed his hand toward it. And that is the Cosmos Meditation recorded for you to experience. So again, as God led me in the structure of the book, it kept forming in such a way from the language of the book to Cosmos Meditation, and then immediately into the 10 great words, which we're on to again today, which brings us to the thought of a loving God, a benevolent God, a teaching God instead of a commanding God.
You know, and talking about battles, and the battles that you had with this topic, and the battles that everybody has day in and day out, is the battle with words. Mm-hmm. Right? Yes. Words are a human construct. As you know, when I heard the 10 great words, I was looking for 10 specific words, right? Which it isn't. So that's how our mind works, you know, and you talked about the vibrational content of words that we have forgotten to pay attention to. So I'd love to look at one of those words. I think
before we do that, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
When you say the 10 great words and you were looking for a word, one of the things that I've learned in my experience in this journey of seeking God within and discovering God throughout all creation was God can't be defined by a single word. So if we really want to understand a single word of God's presentation, it requires a great deal more words to encompass one word of God's instruction. So if God gives a singular word of knowledge, a singular word of wisdom that comes to you in a sense of knowing, have you ever tried to convey that to somebody? You can't just say that one word and they get it. You got to surrender into God and go, okay, well, how can I convey this? And then you realize that the person is holding on to a bunch of words that don't make any sense for what you're offering. So you got to kind of give them their own words. And then you got to help them understand that in those words, they've redefined the original nature of that word. And now here's what I want to offer you. And that's what happens in the 10 great words. Is the first 10 great word is actually a selection of words that bring you to an understanding awareness before God.
That's right. We are always trying to define God, right? And the only way to do it is by words. But I'd love to look at one of those, you know, of those. And I think when we talked before, we looked at 6. I'm going to share the screen here. Let me see.
Yep.
If Let's see. And we're going to put
Thank
it
God
in.
this technology here is just,
Yeah, I know.
I love this stuff. You know, it's awesome.
Hold on, let me see. We said 6. There we go.
Yeah.
So you can see that, right, Larry? So
Yes.
we're going to put it into the context of the 10 Commandments, right?
Yep.
And this one is
Yep.
thou shalt not kill. And the opposite left side is rephrasing it, right?
Yes.
Can you kind of explain how this came about or what it means?
Yeah, and actually, you and I shared a story the other day of an event that I was blessed to experience. As I watched people, when they heard somebody read, we were doing an event in upstate New York, and when you watch somebody read one of the 10 Commandments, they were reading the 10 Commandments, and everybody became like really solemn and tense and tight, and they were like this, or they're like this or whatever, and they were listening to the 10 Commandment. And then, so like at that point where it said, thou shalt not kill. Then I had another person, Robin, read the 6th great word as opposed to thou shalt not kill. Now, thou shalt not kill in the basic understanding within a mind says, oh, well, I don't need to pay attention to that because I won't kill. I would never kill another person. And they immediately go into this mindset that I will not kill another person. There's more to it than just killing or taking of life of physical human life. Thou shalt not kill in its offering and intention was intended for more than just the expression of a human life. It was thou shalt not kill, period. So in the 10 great word, number 6 is, as you find yourself in me, you will discover that you can do no thing which will end or diminish the life within my heavens. You will know that there is no end to life. In me, you will know that there is no death, only birth into new life. Grief will hold no power in you. You will seek me first in all things, and you will be freed of worldly memory as you realize how life has formed anew. For anyone who has returned into my presence, in this you will know you have found me. Death will hold no power over you, and you will not be able to do anything to diminish life as it has been ordained to be. The key there is we can kill with our words. So if we really understood the totality of thou shalt not kill, it would be that I would find that I couldn't even speak words that would diminish people. We would find that we would draw to God's presence and we'd seek wisdom. And let's get even crazy about this. I was just seeing a friend that shared information on the harvesting of cedar bark or birch bark. And most people don't understand that there's a proper wisdom-filled way to harvest these things that don't kill the tree. If you cut into the bark and then peel the bark away from a tree and leave the cambium layer on the core of the tree will continue to live, continue to produce, and provide more bark. However, if a person cuts through to that bark in such a way that they take it down to the core of the tree to the first ring, they've now taken away the cambium bark and walk away with the bark saying, oh, I got my bark, now I can build my canoe and call it a living canoe. No, you can't. Because if you show evidence of the cambium bark on your birch bark canoe, it is a dead canoe. It is no longer a living canoe because it has sacrificed the life of a tree to gain that canoe. So is the process of thou shalt not kill just thou shalt not kill, period, and then defined nature as how one human looks to another? Or is God desiring to empower us to know that we will not be able to kill? Not that we're commanded not to kill, but that we will find within ourselves upon God's path that we can't even do the simplest thing of kill a tree. Because we will draw to the nature of God's presence to seek the manner in which we're supposed to pull forth this life, to utilize it as a gift of blessing, and not bring harm unto another.
So
Go
I'm
ahead.
going to just jump in. So you have heard about the term being a killjoy, right?
Exactly.
Killing somebody's livelihood by not treating them in a respectful way. That's a way of killing, right?
Agreed. So that would fall under this same guise, that you will do no thing that will alter life as in the manner, or alter or diminish life in the manner of which I have defined them to be. So you will find that you will not alter things in a way that God intends them to be. And in that, this is where we are within these 10 great words. And I encourage people, please go take a look at this. Read the book, read and understand these things, and actually tear them apart with your pastor, tear them apart with your ministers. Find out what is wrong with them and see how God guides you. Not the words on the page, but honestly, what is stirring within you? How is God moving you upon this path? And how does this relate to your understanding of how God desires to manifest through you? And you will find that you will move to a place of godly love, godly provision, godly instruction, and loving benevolence. You won't be a commanding, judging, authoritative figure. You'll be a supportive, empowering, grace-filled individual.
Wow, beautiful. And we're going to look at more of these words in future calls and go a little bit deeper. You know, just yesterday, Larry, I don't know if you saw my email, I made it much easier now for people to go look at the book. You don't have to look for it anymore. You simply go to gracehealing.org/book, and there it is. And then you can just click on it, you can download it or read it online. And the Cosmos meditation is built in directly in the document. So it's all there. I encourage you all to read it. I'm rereading it over and over. It's a great resource of peace as well for me personally.
And it's wonderful. I mean, I don't know. Did you share, like, did you put the rear cover on there of the book?
I don't know if I did. What was on there? I have the real book here so I can quickly see what it is. The rear. Oh, that's where you have some quotes on it?
Yeah, because it's like people that were actually in the beginning stages of the book where they actually read it or reviewed it before it actually went to the editor and all that stuff. And they're talking about it being a portal to God and the amazing things that they experienced in the process as they would find themselves transformed, and the book would change. Like they would go back into segments of the book and go, oh my God, that's so different than what I remember. And it was just fascinating to them. And again, people reaching out, picking up the book and finding physical healing happen in their body.
Yeah.
So to me, I don't even attach myself to this at all. I'm just like in awe of what God is doing with that instrument. So it's just a wonderful thing to be able to share with people and see it expand.
Awesome. And with that, we're going to close today's conversation, Larry. It was great as always. Everyone will be back next week.
Yes.
And please do, we're putting this on YouTube and on Facebook. Please find it, make your comments, let us know what you think. We would love to engage in a conversation.
And please share.
Yes.
Because one of the things that I'm witnessing that has been awesome is people have been sharing. And what's been transpiring in that share is God happening. Actual healings happening for people in the shares. And then also we're finding that people are reaching out that were shared and shared again. And now they're reaching out and receiving prayer and finding healing in their lives. So it's wonderful that if people would just share and expand the message and just see God's grace within it.
That's what we'll do. Great. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Larry, good to see you.
Yes, wonderful.
We'll talk soon again. See you. Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
You too.
YahShua.